talking about the war and felt very comfortable about it. So Andy Urich is done loads of research on the filmmakers and about documentaries that were made in Chicago around this time, and we thought that he could lead kind of a discussion with you all. We're really interested in knowing your thoughts about the film.
Hi everyone, it's really great to be here. I'm really happy to be here with you all. Chuck Owen, who you saw a couple times in the film, his theory about making movies where he wanted to make movies to let people talk to themselves. He didn't want to make movies where his voice was what you heard or saw in the film. He wanted the people in the film's voice to be what you see in the movie. So in that sense, I think we're hoping to have this discussion so you all can respond back to what you see on screen and seeing the neighborhood and people you knew and that stuff. So the first question I have is if people here in the room were in the movie, if you would like to raise your hands, we could get a sense of people who would have been here that were in the movie. Wow, that's great. Thanks. Thanks for coming. And other people who maybe weren't in it, did you recognize people or places? Yeah, some head nods, so a little bit more. Okay, great. That's really fantastic. I'm really glad. Other responses? Did I see a hand up? Yeah, sir. Just wait for the mic's coming over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing that constantly stood out in the film, and was, you could see it time and time again, things haven't changed. We're overseas fighting, we have the people dying, or we'll just say warehoused, some of them. Blind, psychologically damaged, physically damaged. And stop and think, how would I, or anybody else here, like to spend the rest of their life without your legs, or a limb, or your sight? And today, it's the same thing. Same thing. Well, there's more protection and body armor and better vehicles. There's more weapons. And there's more better ways of killing somebody or maiming somebody. So there's no improvement to quality of life or the quality of thinking. And I can't stand to think that we're in two places now, Iraq and Afghanistan. This has been the longest time we have ever been engaged in a war in this country, I believe. Now we're looking at Syria. Enough's enough. And another thing too, economically speaking, if you remember in 1970, the war on poverty and the Great Society, how much money that started to cost this country, in addition to funding all this military buildup in Vietnam. And it's the same thing today. It's killing our economy. And people have to wake up to this fact. And the silent majority has to become the loudest majority we've ever had. Otherwise, it's business as usual.
Thanks. Yeah, watching, when I became sort of film historian and watching old documentaries, that fact came home to me. Like, it's the same issues. Obviously things change, but it's been a great learning experience for me to watch these old films and realize it.
I think you'll find that Syria is about 10 years after the start of Afghanistan. I think I mentioned that.
Yeah. Yes, you were the predictor. Yeah. So in terms of the sort of the fact that these filmmakers came down to take a snapshot, I think, of Garfield Ridge, what's your opinion now looking back on it? Did they do a good job? Did they miss things out that they should have put in it? Did they put their spin on it for their own particular reason? Any comments on the sort of neighborhood that it shows?
I think that they didn't speak about the psychological damage, PTSD, and the ruined lives, not just the physical challenges that the war left, but through all of the other wars, the psychological damage that people, that's the evidence that war is now antiquated as a way of resolving conflicts. The Pope went to the United Nations, Pope Paul VI, to arrest him, and he said, "No more war, never more again war." And he said that so clearly back in the, I believe it was in the late 60s, early 70s, and we just have not listened. It's not a way, and our government hasn't listened either. So those two things.
Yeah. Other thoughts about the look of the neighborhood and the view that it presented of this place from anyone from here? Yeah, please. Memories of the
I
times.
promise you this is my last time. I think they did a great job. You know, Archer Avenue from Harlem to Austin, I mean, that's where I grazed. And they covered that very well. And the folks that live there.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, I say I was shocked when I saw it, of how many old folks were thinking along the same lines as the young guys. I think they did a good job for what they had to work with at the time, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask what was the name of the bar that they?
Yeah.
The name of the bar was called Ann Jean's. It was on the northwest corner of Oak Park, Archer, and no longer there. It's still there.
It's a
The
dentist.
building is. The building is, yes, sir. Yes, sir. But that
Pizza
was
parlor and bar.
The pizza parlor and bar, you said?
He sponsored our 16-inch softball team. John Casco, I don't know if that name has anything, but he was the owner of that establishment.
John and Bill were bartenders, Ma worked the tables.
Right.
And you never went out on Friday night before with your, it was a year I was going to marry this gal here. We got married in 71. But you always met at Aunt Jean's.
Yeah, I asked my wife for a first date before we were married.
Were you in the movie as well?
I was the guy that was saying
I was
the
there.
vocal.
I don't know how it happened. I don't know how Mr. Olin got to Aunt Jean's and how he did this.
Yeah.
I have no
Never
recollection
knew.
whatsoever how it happened.
Yeah, I don't know either. In his memoir that unpublished, he talks about renting the place out for the evening and setting up the lights and then just having it sort of be like a film shoot.
We knew that he was coming to film this documentary, but we didn't know the extent that it was going to be. And I think it was on either channel 26 or 11 or,
It was
I'm
on-
not sure. My cousin saw it. And she
Yeah.
We
said,
thought it was,
"Oh my
we thought it
God."
was some neighborhood guys, you know,
The camera.
having a little fun
Yeah.
on the camera.
I mean, I wasn't alive yet, so I didn't watch it then, but my parents were married, I was almost alive. It was on Channel 5, I think, originally, in October, and then in 1971, it was on Channel 11, and I believe you were in part of that. It's like there was like a live discussion afterwards. You had a question, sir.
Just to reiterate, from 1970 to the present time, and like this gentleman over here was saying, unfortunately, nothing has changed. You just take out Vietnam, you put in the Middle East. We still have no representation. The middle class still has no representation. Our Congress officials, they don't serve the people that actually support this country. And I think what they were surprised when they came out here in 1970, like somebody had said, they thought they were going to see a bunch of rednecks in favor of the war. But the people out here could see through it. I really believe that people could see through it, and they were kind of shocked that they were against the war out there, and they thought everybody would be for it. So, thank you.
I think one reason why it comes up in the movie is that there was a lot of people in this neighborhood who had family members that served there, so I assume that that was a common thing. Yes, please, sir.
So, how did war come to the United States? You go way back to the Revolutionary War, 1776. There was no United States yet. But the group that supposedly was starting up the United States of America, they had to fight the British because of taxation. The British were supposedly trying to take over the United States, you might say at that time, and expand their territory. The outcome, Revolutionary War. That's the first war of the United States. And ever since then, it seems like you've got, Japanese were strong, they were trying to do something to the United States. The Russians at one time or another were our enemy, and they become our ally, now they become our enemy again, depending on, you know, what they say in the future. So I just say, war isn't necessary, but I don't know how you're gonna get people to sit down and converse with each other and finally maybe come to their senses and talk sense across the table. That's my thoughts.
Thanks.
I'm sure there's a lot of folks that remember the tune, or what is it?
Absolutely not.
Thanks, ma'am.
1970.
Yeah, I was, you hear me?
It's going right in the camera.
I was, back then I was in high school at Kennedy, but my brother went to Vietnam, he was drafted. Thank God he didn't have to fight, but he was drafted, he had to go to Vietnam, and he had some kind of office job there, but he was on night duty, so he did have to carry a weapon. He never really talks about the war. I was like maybe 12, no, I wasn't 12, I was a young teenager at the time, and he never talks about the war. But I'm sure he's seen a lot, even though he didn't have to actually fight. But what I want to say is, my sense is I think people are helpless. I think the majority of the people, I feel that the government is ruling us, and they're not listening to us. That I believe that's what this film was portraying, that most of the people felt helpless and they had no control of what the top officials were going to do in Washington.
Thanks for commenting on that. That's definitely in the movie.
I like to stay, but I have to go.
Okay.
I can't, I was in the film.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
I joined the Army out of Kennedy High School. I went to Nam. I was there for 68. Left there New Year's Day, 69. And I came home over here in 58 in Newcastle. My mom and dad just had a house built. Just hang around Aunt Jean's all the time. And I told, one of my remarks is tell everybody to vote. I didn't vote for her until Clinton because I hated the system so much. I volunteered to find out that the attack that was supposed to have happened in the Gulf of Tonkin did not happen. And one of the psychs at Jesse Brown VA was one of the American pilots that flew loads from Vietnam and Laos and all that in civilian clothing for the government. So there's a lot of bullshit there that people don't know about. Just like today, there's a lot going on, and in this Middle East thing, there's a little religious thing going on. It's coming up as the year of the 10 kings. That's why they're trying to take out all these leaders of the Middle East there. We're involved, but covertly. And it's all bullshit. I'm 100% disabled. Jack leg's all messed up. And the shit continues. Nothing changes. So, you know, I'm glad you people got good intentions, but, you know, I did my duty. I heard a lot of people, and now I pay for it, but I can't. I go to group, and I hear similar, and it tears me up inside because I'm experiencing, when we got turned loose, we were just turned loose. I see a lot of guys at the Jesse Brown VA. I'm now going to Hines. And I see a lot of young men and women that are kind of screwed up, either injuries or mentally or whatever. And it's the price we pay for the games that they play. And it's bullshit. To me, it's all bullshit. You know, really, but I can't because I'll start going crazy. So people...
Oh, here.
Long way out.
So, other places in the movie that you recognize that you went to that's not there anymore has changed? Other sort of like local places? I'm sorry, ma'am? I'm not from here, so I don't know the places that are in the movie. People that you recognize that maybe aren't here, whose names would be great for us to know?
You know the Gibbonses.
But,
And Jen Gibbons.
yeah,
Who were there.
that's their backyard where they
Yeah, I
have.
believe so.
Other names of people you
Well, we
The
love-
gentleman that just spoke, his name is Sam Malazzo. My name is Paul Alden, my wife's name.
The barbers, the first names of the barbers are identified, the owner of the hardware store, the last name at least of the owner of the hardware store. And we don't know the daughter's name in the movie, but I think we have a good feeling most of the names of places.
Is the firehouse still operating?
Oh, yeah.
Well, sure.
I know. The Kennedy High School at the end, the custodian, that was the custodian of Kennedy High School at the time who raised the flag. And the hardware store, I believe, is still the hardware store down here. And then we found out the name of the bar.
Is there a particular culture in Garfield Ridge that came out of this film, or that you could identify out of this film? Did that feel like you?
No, I would say absolutely. I don't think anybody that spoke in that thing had anything to say but what they felt inside. There was no, we want to cut, take that, we're going to take another shot at it. No, there was none of that.
Yeah, I felt they were like real honest. They were real honest, and they just felt like what they felt, what they said, that's what they felt inside.
Nancy, it was when people were talked to, they were able to express themselves. Nobody had allowed that to happen before. And it was the brilliance of Chuck and other people who were doing interviewing at the time. Couldn't believe what this culture was about, that these people wanted to participate and they wanted to understand how they can make some changes with in their society. And the strategy that we took is realizing their self-interest, which was enlightened that it can only be realized if other people were involved in this, that they could have power to change, to influence the way that people voted and policies in boardrooms. And so it was just a wonderful thing that really caught on, and the Southwest Side was really a leader in that whole movement at that time, back in the 70s. It was just wonderful.
And it wasn't biased either, because I hope that the fireman is 200 years old today. But you could see that they also took the opinion of guys that were totally, this is what goes on every day. So what are you talking about? Guys die, we go to war, we go to work, we get up, we eat breakfast, we go to sleep. So they didn't put it all anti-war. They actually got some other opinions from folks that weren't necessarily.
They were they seemed like World War II
guys, yeah. And they didn't seem to be as upset as the younger guys. But again, I'm repeating myself for the third time. I was amazed at the older folks that were anti-war. I was absolutely amazed.